Recently, myself and Liz have been talking a lot about the amazing essential oil of blue lotus, and Liz was mentioning Kemetic spirituality. So I wanted to jump on and have a conversation for her to elaborate a little bit on how we can use blue lotus and what it has to do with Kemetic spirituality. So, Liz, what's Kemetic spirituality for those that don't know?
Ancient Egypt. It's the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, the practices of ancient Egypt, and just so interesting to see how much of a representation there was in ancient Egypt. When you start looking for it, it's in the tombs, it's in the temples, it's on Tutankhamun's funerary. Um, uh, in his like he's got like a sarcophagus, that's the word I'm looking for, on the side of his sarcophagus. It's on his throne. Actually, he was buried with blue lotus petals round his neck. And so it's really fascinating to think about how or what it was, because we don't really know why it was used in ancient Egypt. But just to kind of look at the iconography of Kemetic spirituality and say, well, what could it have meant? I think the very important thing to say at this point is that it obviously it wasn't the blue lotus essential oil that they were using, right? So that seems like an obvious point, but we don't actually know what they were using. This is like macerations of the lotus flowers into oil. Um, and they definitely seem to have drunk it as well. There seems to have been recipes for wine. And actually, I should have brought a picture. There was a fantastic like reconstruction of a kind of tool that they seem to use to drink with it on a fantastic BBC program that was on about 10 years ago, and I managed to track it down. And they were showing how they'd got these great big like amphorae jugs that had got pictures of the lotus on, and then also chalices that were made they're called lotiform chalices, how they were made to look like the lotus flower. And then they had this strange straw that was like it came up in a right angle, but in the right angle itself there's the sort of angular beautiful carving of the lotus flower as well. So presumably they were drinking the wine with the petals still in it, because alcohol is a really good way of being able to extract the different chemicals that do make it kind of like a little bit hallucinogenic, but barely hallucinogenic, to be honest. But you do kind of feel like get very drunk very quickly. You get quite a very giggly very quickly. I did a really good course with a lady called Katie Holland, who's a sacred dancer who had studied um, the blue lotus in ancient Egypt, and she does a lot of work with soul contracts. And we were doing it with blue lotus, and I decided that I would make like a tincture of it, but like a magical drink. So I'd done it a mix of brandy and honey and lotus flowers. And I was adding it to wine. And by the end of it, I was absolutely off my trolley. I was so drunk, and everybody else was supposed to be coming across as professional, as bright red and giggly. And so, if you think about it, was a big part of their rituals. We know several of their rituals that happened in the summertime when the blue lotus would have been all along the edges of the Nile. And you can imagine that they must have been absolutely off their trolleys, because all of them would have been really, really drunk. But it seems to have been connected to the dead, of going to the tombs of your family and kind of hanging out with the people that had passed by. And you can see on the walls of the tomb, you've got all of these murals of people kind of imbibing the lotus, having it on their head. This seemed to be a thing, wearing them in their bands, and presumably they were absolutely trolleyed. Yeah.
Well, apart from us getting off our faces and getting crazy using blue lotus in a tea or an alcohol or something like that, it is such a spiritual flower and thus essential oil that we now have access to today. How could we kind of connect to that kind of power of one of the greatest civilizations that's ever existed on this planet, do you feel?
Truthfully, I don't think we can in a way that was. Because the essential oil doesn't have the sort of flavonoids and things in it that they were using. You'd be better off having a tea, but a tea is not extracted by alcohol. So a tincture is your best way of doing it. But it is my belief that every plant kind of carries the spirit with it, and certainly you have a sense of real reverence when you use it, and you can see that there were lots of representations of that this is reverence to the gods and thank you and gratitude to the gods all of the way through, but also that it was important in their journey through in reincarnation. So the reason this is one of the reasons that was Katie was using it for soul contracts, this idea that we have these contracts that come back over and over again through many incarnations. And if you look at the treasures of Tutankhamun, there's the lotus is everywhere actually, and I talk about it a lot in the course. So if this is something that's interesting to you, you should click the link and do my course. But one of my favourite things is there is a picture. There's like a statue of him with his head coming out of the lotus flower, and he is obviously a boy king. We know that he was a boy king, but his representation is both him and the god Nefertum, which we'll talk about in the next video. But when you look at it in the Book of the Dead, you can see that the becoming the lotus flower, it talks about how he becomes the lotus flower, is kind of the end of the last life and the incarnation into the afterlife. And so from the point of view of like connecting with Egyptian spirituality, if somebody, for example, is really, I don't know if you recognize this feeling. Sometimes you'll come across something, in particularly in priestess work, and you'll go, I don't know how I know that, but I kind of feel like I'm remembering that rather than I haven't just learned it. I've got this remembering. And before I even knew that was the thing that happened to me in the Melissa work, I was aware that I was dreaming of being back in ancient Egypt. And I would have this like dream that came over and over again of being in a cave and swimming with crocodiles. And it was only later that people said, did you know that's a known initiation rite of the priestess, that they had to swim with crocodiles? I said, I did not know that. No, that's very weird that I was having it over and over again. So those kind of situations where you kind of feel like you have a remembering of ancient Egypt, and you want to kind of bring that through, or to connect with your spirit guides, or connect with the deities of ancient Egypt, of which there are many, and Blue Lotus is more some things than others, obviously. So, for example, like the crocodile god is Sobek. I wouldn't really want to connect with Sobek that way. I use marjoram. But we'll talk in another video about Nefertum or Amun or Isis or Hathor. All of those kind of wisdom flows have associations with Blue Lotus. And the very best way to connect with that, you could make yourself an anointing oil. And we talked a little bit about this in one of the lavender videos before, but you know that making an anointing oil is not just about putting drops of essential oil into an oil and then smacking it on. It's about actually consecrating it and blessing it and telling the deity that this is what I would love you to interact with me about, and letting them know that that is your intention, having a purified space, all of those things. But if you are going to choose an oil to be able to connect with those, then Blue Lotus is absolutely brilliant for that, because they have a remembering of Blue Lotus themselves, you know, from the past. This was their most sacred thing, and it is always beneficent. It is always beautiful. It's always seen as a really happy thing. And so being able to make an anointing oil, or you could have it in your bath. I really like ritual baths with Blue Lotus, and that can be blue lotus petals or the essential oil. Um, and if you're doing it with the essential oil, I like to put it into a teaspoon of honey. So you have that even sweeter vibration come through, or olfaction, breathing it in and using it as part of your meditation. And I'm guessing you're going to say, and could you use it in a diffuser for that? And definitely, yeah, you could do that. Yes.
Mm. Sadly, now because of pollution in the waterways of the Nile, the blue lotus isn't as abundant as it was in the past. But because it's such a revered flower, it actually has spread. It went through parts of Europe and then into Asia as well. What I find really interesting is that it's not only sacred to many Egyptian deities, but also you see it appearing in Chinese, Indian, Japanese, and Greek and Roman and other mythologies where I found when I was looking at how many different gods and even a couple of angels are connected to the lotus flower, that it really is. If Rose is the queen of the flowers, then this is the high priestess of the flowers. And it is such a sacred flower for helping us to connect with so many goddesses and gods. But I think, yeah, especially with that connection to the fact that it's native to Egypt, in ancient Egyptian times, it was played such an important role. From getting trolleyed, as you said, all the way through to spiritual connection as well. So I think it's a really valuable tool, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think so to kind of just sort of give it a bit more of a framing than that. So we talk about how it grew in the Nile. It kind of only kind of grew in the Nile. So if you think about the actual depth of the spirituality of Kemetic spirituality, what it was always about the inundation of the Nile, right? That was the fructification of Egypt. When the Nile overflowed, then that brought fertility back to the land. And um, so the Nile has to break its banks. And the lotus doesn't like to be in flowing water. So while it was in the Nile, it was in the actual overflowing of the Nile, so in like stagnant pools, if you like. And I should have my husband here to tell this story because he tells it all the time. So he's very obsessed by his pond in the garden, you may remember, Adam. And what he'll tell you about lotuses is they can't be in deep water. They have to be in shallow water because they have to be able to go down to the bottom and then come back up again. That's part of the sort of spiritual lesson of it, that you go down into the depths and then you come back into the light again. But so the Nile itself is too deep. So it's on the sort of, so it has to, so it's almost like fireworks, isn't it? It's had this like ejaculation of water that's come out everywhere, and suddenly then there's all these beautiful flowers that come up. And so there would be two types that came up. The blue lotus was there, and the white lotus was there. And the blue lotus would come up, and then it would close its petals at lunchtime and seemingly go under the water. And then the white ones would take its place. So we have this incredible imagery of like there's this rhythm of the day happening all of the time. And of course, the rhythm of the day was responding to the sun, but also it's capturing insects so that it could get pollinated. I went to meet some other aromatherapists at the Botanical Gardens the other day. I went with Helen Nagel-Smith and two other gentlemen. And as we walked in, I was blown away because there was a blue lotus in the hothouse, and I'd never seen one real before. And I was absolutely transfixed of how beautiful it was. It was really incredibly striking form. It wasn't as well when we made this one. That came off. It didn't really look like that at all. It was much more pointed. The petals were much longer. It sat right high above the water, and it was by far the most beautiful thing in the whole of the Botanic Gardens. And me in the Botanic Gardens, you can imagine what I'm like. And so yeah, it was breathtaking to me to be able to see it. Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. Now, there is so much we could talk about with Blue Lotus. And if you'd like to find out about how you can connect with Blue Lotus to kind of bring a bit more beauty into your life with all this doom and gloom that's always around, make sure you check out our next video. We also have, Liz has a course that she's referred to. The link will be down below for that. But we'll be back soon to explore more on Blue Lotus as well. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye bye.